Betsy.
I've just realised that you couldn't hear me, but can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you perfectly now.
Sorry about that.
We just
sorry about the
intro.
little.
Sorry.
Okay, so we'll just quickly, I'll run through it again. I'm Betsy, I'm Pioneer Minister in the Arts, and Rachel Riveros, Artistic Director of E33, and Dan Cosette, Co-Director. Welcome, and welcome everyone to this question and answer session. Thanks so much for sharing this amazing film. I've seen it a couple of times and I just absolutely love it. If you're joining us and you would like to ask a question, you should, on the Vimeo page, you should be able to see there's a chat function. And if you sign up in there, you can ask questions. So just while you're thinking about what you want to ask, maybe, Rachel, you'd just like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Riveros. I'm the Artistic Director of E33 Dance Company. I really hope you enjoyed our short dance film, and I'm sure it's given you lots of food for thought. And I'm going to pass you over now onto my co-director, Dan, just to say hello as well.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Rachel. And I want to give a special shout out to Wandsworth Arts Fringe for making this incredible event happen, because right now there are people tuning in. I have friends from Africa who are tuning in, so all around the world people are watching, and I just think what you've put on is amazing. So great event, everyone, and thank you so much. Yeah, so my name is Dan, and I am co-director with Rachel for E33, and we do a lot of stuff, actually. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. E33 is a Battersea-based professional dance company, and that incorporates ballet dancers, contemporary dancers, capoeiristas. Is a real fusion of styles and backgrounds. And we're a holistic company, focusing not just on the physical and individual physical aspects, but also individuals' mental and spiritual well-being. So what that looks like for us is creating professional artistic works of excellence and that are thought-provoking, but also exploring concepts such as value and meaning in life. And for the community, that means not just keeping fit, but as well checking in on how people are doing in terms of their mental health, and really knowing and loving our community and helping them develop in all areas of their lives, not just dance, but emotional and spiritual. So we tend to rehearse on Fridays, and we open our Friday morning class to the public as well. So if you want to come join us, that would be great. When funding permits, we train intensively, so you might be able to catch us on a week of rehearsals and classes. And we also have 2 thriving youth companies, one for young people aged 13 to 25, and another one for 6 to 12 years old, and that's based at Providence House Youth Club in Clapham Junction. And that's taught by some of our professional dancers. So if you are a young person in the Clapham area, you should check that out. Rachel also runs a mentoring program for young girls and women called Shine to improve people's self-esteem and sense of purpose in their lives. We do productions in theaters, we create films, as you've just seen, and we teach in schools and community centers. And we were in the middle of rehearsals for a new show as part of WAF Live before the coronavirus hit. So we hope to come back to that when all this has kind of calmed down. And this performance would be showcasing the 3 companies dancing together for the first time ever. So the 6-year-olds right next to the professionals in the company with a wide range of new choreographies. So look out for that, because it will be coming. And when we're allowed to gather in larger groups, you can find that happening in your area. It's going to be really great. So yeah, Rachel, do you want to tell us a little bit more about making Pursue Me?
Yes, it was a real experience. I remember we began with a gigantic art pad, one of those huge ones. And I remember Dan and I, we had it on the floor of our studio, our dance studio at the DRCA, and we just started to storyboard it. So Dan told me, write down, try and draw scene by scene what's in your head so that you could visualize it. So I did all these little squares, an image for each, literally each scene of the film. And we also used to go to St. Pancras a lot. They have a live, they have pianos there where people play live, and I absolutely love that. Just members of the public will stop and play the piano, And so we would sit and drink coffee with the art pad and just sketch and envisage this the story of the film. So it was quite an experience. The finding dancers was quite easy. I had in my mind who I wanted to be the different characters. Finding a director was harder because it was our first venture into the film industry. So I think we went through 3 film directors before we found the perfect person. That was Jahan Khan, who was absolutely amazing, such a perfectionist. Dan will tell you a little bit, but he worked hard. When we were at St Pancras filming, we only had a very small window of time when we were allowed to film about 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was a case of going in there and just doing the choreography again and again. Jam just kept saying again, and another take with very few breaks, hence the sweatiness that you probably caught in the film. But yeah, it was a real adventure, wasn't it, Dan? With some comedy as well on the way.
It was. We had a pigeon that insisted on being in most of the shots, and we had volunteers and our spouses at various ends in high-vis vests asking people, please don't come into the film set. Some people listened, but it was quite an adventure. But really, really epic to be in St. Pancras doing that shot.
We've got a few questions coming in. I was going to ask one myself, but it's somebody's already actually asking. Question is, did the feeling of the dance come from personal experience? We've chatted a bit about this in the past, Rachel. Do you want to say a little bit about what prompted you to make this film in the first place from your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. The film is my story. I know that we've all got a story. Everybody has. And the actual inspiration came one day when I was on a train journey. I was actually going from King's Cross up to Yorkshire, and it was a winter's day. It was very snowy. The snow was falling. And I don't know about you guys, but I love to sit, or whether it's a train or a car, I love to look out of the window on a journey and go into my own little world and think. So on that particular day, I was thinking about my higher power, which is God, and how he's been pursuing me all my life. Even at the times when I didn't really believe in him or when I doubted his existence, there was definitely God kept cropping up in my life again and again until I couldn't doubt his existence. So that's who you saw Dan playing that character, the character of God. So it's really the story of, I was going to say it's my spiritual journey, but maybe that's the wrong wording. I think it's more accurate to say that it was how God found me and God pursued me.
And there's a lot in the film that is actually quite painful to watch. Would you say just a little bit about what it was like to express things that had happened and maybe difficult things that had happened in your life through dance?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's my story, so it's very personal to me. And I think, in a nutshell, I was just very lost and I needed to be found. And for me, it was God who found me and put my feet on firm grounds and gave me some stability. And in the blurb, it says, it's the story from brokenness to wholeness. So it's how God loved me back into wholeness. And that's what you see in the garden scene at the end. That's how I know what real love is. It's God's unconditional love. That's the garden scene at the end of the film.
And Dan, what was it like to? I mean, did you know Rachel before you started filming the Pursue Me?
Yes. So we met at a dance festival in London, probably in 2012, and then we started working together shortly after I moved to the UK in 2013. And so we've done a number of projects together, and I really enjoyed Rachel's artistic vision and working ballet and contemporary ballet and capoeira and contemporary all together. And so that's been fantastic. But also I appreciate Rachel's faith journey, because I also believe in God and have found him to be loving and compassionate and powerful. And so I was well up for doing this project and being a part. It's a little bit overwhelming, I suppose, to be asked to play God in a non-comedic use of the phrase. But yeah, it was really really a great project, and just very impressed with Rachel's vision and ambition to get these iconic venues like the top of the Royal Festival Hall and St. Pancras Station, and to see it all come together very professionally with Jahan and Aneta and all the other contributors. It was really good. So.
You mentioned the other contributors, and we've got a question here from, well, a couple of questions. One from Ruth, who's asking, could you talk a little bit about your choreographers? And also another question about your process for creating those duets. So those two questions probably are quite interlinked. So maybe, I don't know, Rachel, if you want to kick off with that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we all live in different places. Dan's Cambridge-based, and Aneta, my other dancer, is based in London. And we were helped by Randall, who's in the USA. So we're based, and musicians as well. One of our musicians is Ireland. So we were all over the place. So Dan and I would often rehearse our duet together. And the way I work at E33 is very collaborative. So I have an idea in my head about the storyline. So I told Dan, this is a story, this is what I've got in my head. Have a look at the art pad again with a storyboard. Now, can you help me to create it? So I remember with our duet in St. Pancras, we had loads of key words. So I said to Dan, can you give me some movement that might symbolize being heavy laden or oppressed, weary, tired? So between the two of us, we came up with loads of phrases and images. And then very gradually we put that together. And similar with the process with Aneta, the girl in the red dress. She's an amazing contemporary dancer, wonderful at Capira. And when I first met her, she was just a dancer to me, but now she's become a great friend as well, as of all my team. But yeah, the same, we would end up in the studio together, and I told Aneta, this is what I'm thinking. And sometimes I think very literally, but then Aneta told me, why don't we pull away from the literal and make it more conceptual? So rather than being in a literal fight, let's make it more abstract. So she was wonderful in choreographing that second section in the Royal Albert Hall rooftop. And the third section wasn't choreographed by us. That was choreographed by our great friend and choreographer, Randall Flynn, who's head of Adeum Dance Company in the USA. He's a great friend of ours. And he very kindly came over and came to the DRCA, and he choreographed that duet on Dan and I. I just told him what I wanted. I told him the vision, and that's what he created on us. So as I said, it's very much a collaborative company. The same with the musicians. I told them, this is what I want. And 3 different musicians choreographed the 3 different sections. So yeah, lots of input, Betsy, different people. Don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Dan, any other things I might have missed?
I think that being a collaboration was a real strength, as it brought together so many really genius ideas, and I felt like my role in that was sort of to just help you pick out from all of the amazing colors and options and flavors that people brought, which ones kind of brought forth your story the strongest. So by the end of it, on top of our massive spreadsheets of artist pages of storyboard, we'd also then taken sticky notes and swapped scenes around and moved things back and forth, and we just had a really tactile way of keeping track of all the new thoughts and ideas. But yeah, so it was both really strong vision, but also a group effort, and really enjoyed the richness of the project.
And you mentioned, Rachel, when you were talking about the lady in the red dress, and that's always, it's incredibly dramatic scene, that. And one of our guests has asked if in your interpretation, Dan was God, who is the lady in the red dress? The big question.
Yeah, great question. So for me, it represented a real kind of battle in my life. You could say it's a spiritual battle. So the lady in the red dress represents to me the enemy. It could also symbolize our struggles, our addictions, our problems. So for me, it was like all the things in life that held me back, that I couldn't let go of. So yeah, that's the lady in the red dress. The forces of darkness, you could call it, whatever it is to you, but that's what it was to me.
And that's an interesting point about whatever it is to you, because you've said very much what prompted you to make the film and what that story meant to you. And you and Dan had a shared vision for that. But what about people maybe who are watching this who don't share that faith? What's your hope of how it speaks to people more generally, more universally?
I'll say something briefly, but then maybe Dan wants to answer that question as well. I think, as I said, this is my story, but we've all got a story, and I find it so fascinating to hear people's stories when they open up, and perhaps if they're close friends, they will share with me their own story. And I find that fascinating because, yeah, everyone's lived a life, and whether you have a faith or no faith, everyone has had some struggles, I believe. So I think that they can relate on that level. Yeah, struggles, shall we say, stronghold struggles. Dan, how would you answer that question?
I agree. I think we all have our own stories, and yours is really powerful and honest. And what you've shared about how you found hope is really powerful as well. And I think that that's the message I want people to take away: is if you need hope, then this is how someone's found it. And so yeah, there is hope, and you can find hope as well. And hearing a story of how someone finds hope is the first step in knowing where to find it for yourself. And I would encourage people to find it in Jesus Christ, in the God of the Bible, where I found it and where Rachel found it. But yeah, don't give up. We're facing a global crisis at this moment, and look for those places of hope, because there is light, there's sunlight in the garden, and there's beauty to be found. So yeah, keep looking if you haven't found it.
I think that's very.
To add to that.
Go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to add to that that when I made this piece, it was a couple of years ago now, but right now watching it again during a global pandemic feels very topical. I'm watching it today with different eyes and seeing it in a different light, but I know that a lot of people in my life right now really could do with a portion of peace. So I hope that this film has spoken to you. If you didn't, we've made another work as well during lockdown, which is called The Peace Project. So if you've missed that, then you can find that also on the WAF website, The Peace Project by E33 Dance Company, which we created for you and to bring you some peace during this tough season where I guess we're all struggling for different reasons right now. So sorry to interrupt you, Betsy.
No, people are much more interesting for people to hear from you. And yeah, I mean, I've seen the Peace film as well, which is lovely. A lot of people coming together. One more of a comment than a question. One of our watchers has said that the last scene in the garden is really beautiful, which it is, and it does feel a bit heavenly. But they say, but I guess it's more about your life now. And I thought that was interesting when you were talking about the pandemic and the fact that a lot of people are going through struggles, and there is a lovely sense at the end of the film. There's this real sense of hope and life and joy, and I wonder about that. I mean, I was thinking in relation to that, like if you were going to make a sequel to Pursue Me around what's happening now, I wonder what that might say, what that might be about.
Oh, that's a big question. Yeah, it wasn't meant to be heavenly. It wasn't meant to be heavenly. It wasn't meant to represent heaven. It was actually meant to represent the here and now. But I think in the story that I made, my security now is in God, right in the present. So not in the future. I do believe in heaven, but not far away in the future. Just right now, I feel like I've got that safe place and that security. Obviously, you see a lot in the film about relationships, that I had a string of messy relationships growing up. So I think, that's where I find my security and safety even today in challenges that I face this year and tough things that have happened. Yeah, that's where I find my safe place. And yeah, that's the garden, I guess, with God. But it doesn't have to be far away in the future. It could be could be here and now. It is here and now for me. Yeah, I've never thought about making a sequel. To pursue me, it was so much hard work. I think from the initial first idea on that train journey to the editing, it was just over 3 years. So it was a long journey. But I love film. I've discovered that I love the medium of film, so I'd be open to it. But I have no idea what a sequel would look like. Dan, what would a sequel look like?
I don't know about a sequel, but I feel like we have an
sequel,
alternate
Dan.
ending.
You're my co-director.
Yeah, I'll do this. We have sort of an alternate ending with the piece Benedictus. It's another duet that we have in the repertoire of E33, and I feel that sort of speaks to a continuing existence or life in relationship with God. And there's just a lot of times where it's up in the air, then it's down on the floor, but the whole time the God character is supporting or covering or sheltering. We will go through crazy times in this world, but he's there to help and support, is what I found, and what Rachel's found. And so in the midst of whatever is happening, whether it's a lockdown or it's good times in the garden, he's there. And so that's what gives me hope. That's what gives Rachel hope, I think. So yeah.
Dan, you just reminded me about three moments in the film, in the garden section, which I love. They're some of my favorite moments of the whole film. But again, today they just spoke to me again. I don't know whether you remember it, everybody, but you can watch it again now. We're going to leave it up until the end of the festival, possibly even beyond that. So you'll be able to watch it again. But there's a moment where Dan takes my hand in the garden and we run around the corner. And to me, that represents that sometimes, we don't know where life's going. And sometimes things can happen that feel like a very unexpected turn. But again, for me, it's that firm hand, that hand of safety, and that trustworthy hand means that whatever I'm facing, particularly now in lockdown, that I feel like, I'm secure. And there's another moment after that where I'm in a dark tunnel. And for me, that represents, sometimes we go through the same difficulties over and over again. And every time I face one of those similar difficulties, I always panic. So that facial expression where I'm looking down that dark tunnel and I've got fear on my face is that I don't seem to learn that lesson very quickly. Sometimes I feel like I have a bit of a goldfish brain. Seem to be a slow learner. But then again, you see Dan take the hand and we go down that dark tunnel together, and then it's not so scary. So that felt very apt today. And then the final moment, and I think that is my favorite moment of the whole film, is when I'm just laying in front of the water fountain and the water is just coming down on the girl. And she looks so peaceful and she's just at rest and she's breathing. And then Dan's character comes and kind of puts his arms over her. And to me, that's just so soothing. And I just love that moment. It speaks 1,000 words.
That's beautiful, Rachel. We've got quite a few questions coming in, and some of them maybe a little bit more on the technical side. We have one question early on which asked about the filming. So how many days did you shoot that film over? You've got a lot of locations, a lot of choreography. How long were you shooting for?
Yeah, go for it.
Felt like we had 3 days.
3 days.
There was
3 days, 3.5 days.
Was it only? Man, we had been thinking about the film and working on it for so long, but once we finally had Jahan on board and we arrived at the film dates, it was like bam, 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 we have to get this done, and you just had to keep going until you had all your shots, or until you ran out of time at the train station, and it was really intense. So all the preparation, every rehearsal you'd had in advance, you were so grateful because you just had to whip it out almost in a blink of an eye when the camera was ready, or when there were no pedestrians walking by right at that moment.
Thanks. We've got a question. I don't have a name on this one, but how did E33 end up combining ballet and Capira? So a more general question about your company. I have to admit, I'd never even heard of Capira. I can't even say it. Capira when I first met you. So you might want to share a little bit about that and how those two things came together, which I know is very much sort of part of your story, Rachel, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. So one day I was training at, I think, Pineapple or Dance Works or one of the London dance studios, and I came out of my class, and the next lesson that was in there was Capoeira. So I was just watching all the people dancing, and I was absolutely transfixed, and I hadn't seen it before. And I was like, wow, what is that style of movement? And I just fell in love with it. And people always say, oh, it's quite an unusual mix, trying to mix ballet and Capoeira. But I don't think it necessarily is, because the kind of contemporary ballet we do is very lyrical, and Capoeira's got this kind of lilt, this flow. So Annetta and I, and then obviously Annetta's taught Dan as well, Capoeira, in some of our rehearsal days. So it's kind of been, we've all kind of been learning off each other, sharing skills. But it's just something that I fell in love with. Yeah, I love it today. So it's just another movement style which I really enjoy, and I do love working in that style, even though that wasn't my original training. My original training is in ballet, but I love having the privilege of working with Annetta, and before Annetta we worked with a guy, Ponciano, amazing capoeiristas. So yeah, they've taught us so much.
I think you'll find as well that ballet it often is about finding a singular point on the floor, and then how much space in the air can you take. And Capoeira is quite fun because it asks the question, which other body part can you put on the floor, and which other body part can you put in the air? And so in a sense, taking dance and turning it on its head, both figuratively and literally sometimes. And that exploration has been a fantastic part of the journey. Really appreciated working with Annetta, especially in Ponciano. Yeah, it's been good.
And Rachel, I've seen you working in that style, working with young children with that dance style, and I was really struck with how, particularly young boys, how drawn they were to the physicality of that style. It's just almost like a sort of a sense of being able to get out that aggression, but in a really beautiful and non-contact way.
Yeah, definitely. I think Capoeira is so playful. It's lovely. Obviously, I'm trained in ballet, which can sometimes be quite serious, and it's very precise. And I think the lovely thing about Capoeira for children or for adults is that it's so playful. So yeah, the young people that we've worked with in the past, they have loved having that introduction to Capoeira. They have.
I've got one point that's been made that I think is that at the end, quite near the end, where you're on both of you are on the bench, and somebody points out that it's quite a nice social distancing moment where you're apart, which I thought was really. I wondered if that might be quite interesting to say. I mean, one of the things talking to a lot of artists at the moment, and particularly for a dancer, not to be able to dance with others during this time, and I just wondered if you might like to say something about what it's like as a dancer, as an artist, not being able to practice that art in the way you normally would.
Yeah, I'll pass it over to Dan in a second as well. Yeah, I think it's really challenging. I mean, I'm teaching on Zoom at the moment, and we are so lucky to have Zoom, so thank goodness for Zoom. And it's wonderful to be able to connect with people we don't usually connect with. So we've got dancers coming from all over the world to our Friday morning class. So that's been a real blessing. The challenging thing for me is that I love the closeness, like you said, of being in the studio where you can, I realize that so much of it is sensory. I'm feeling the dancers. Where are they at? What level are they at? Are they enjoying it? And I'm sensing the room. So it's a very different experience when you're teaching on Zoom, is that I can't really sense where they're at. I don't know if they're finding it challenging or too easy. So I feel like it's like teaching with a blindfold on. So I really miss that. I really miss the classroom. I miss the studio. I miss people. I'm a people's person. but at the same time, I'm very grateful for technology. And at least we're trying to be creative. So things like doing the Peace Project was amazing, that all of the young people from Providence House, our teenagers, friends from around the world, it kept us all dancing together and then make a film together, even when we can't be together. So that was really, I think that was quite healing, doing that right now. Dan, how has it been for you in lockdown, trying to teach and dance and the rest of it?
Yeah, it's similar. I think everyone's sort of facing the same hurdle, and at the moment, it's okay. It's okay for a season, but looking forward to when we'll be back in the same room with our fellow dancers. In the meantime, I've got some ideas for new projects and want to explore choreography with a few fellow dancers, and to create some work that we can share over the internet, and that we can do together, but also as individuals. And so I think there's more we can explore while we need to observe distancing, but looking forward to when we can be back in the same space and can hug a friend and shake hands and be close again.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to that. We're getting towards the end of time, but just time for a couple more questions. There's one question Abigail has asked about: was this originally a stage piece, and if so, what changes did you need once you had all these different locations?
Ah, brilliant question. Yeah, originally I forgot to add that in. We did it in the theatre to start with, so we did it as part of Resolution Dance Festival at the place. So for that, we had windows. We had an art installation of like broken windows that were hung up in the theatre, and then we had kind of like pieces of fake glass on the floor, which looked like smashed glass. And in the Pursue Me in the theatre, we used the analogy of the glass to represent brokenness in somebody's life. And then we gathered up the pieces of glass to kind of make something out of it, make something beautiful, a beautiful mosaic or a beautiful pattern at the end. So it was a lot more symbolic. Whereas when we did it for film, it was a lot more literal. So we lost, obviously, the broken glass art installation concept. And then we went with kind of the flashbacks, the memories, and we brought in Joe Warner, an actor, brilliant actor guy who came and joined us for the project. So yes, everything became a lot more literal, and then obviously a lot more complicated, trying to get licenses to film at those venues. Yeah, it was a lot of work behind the scenes for this film.
In the stage version, we had live musicians right on stage with us, which was brilliant. And Rennis Zarin's a fantastic pianist, and he composed some of the movements and other musical parts. And then he did some of the music for us as well for this project, the film project. But we definitely missed having the whole band on stage with us. But we did change it, and I think originally it had 4 movements, and we reviewed some of the ones that we thought didn't do as well, and thought, how can we combine or eliminate some of that and tell the story a bit more concisely, but hit the parts that we really want to stand out. And so I think actually it was a gorgeous stage production, but I'm really pleased with how the piece has grown and become even something new, but something even clearer.
Brilliant. Very close to time. Just got one quick question. Elaine has asked about whether you can say something more about the mentoring young people that you do, Rachel. I know that's something that you've mentioned. And
yeah, so during lockdown at the moment, I've been mentoring some of my teenagers one-to-one, doing a mentoring program. That's just kind of informal mentoring. So just kind of finding out where dancers are at and then trying to grow them from there. I've also been teaching the Shine mentoring program online. The Shine course is a wonderful 9-week mentoring program. So I've been teaching young people Shine. But yeah, we're available as a dance company to come in to your facility and teach the Shine course, or offer professional dancers offering mentoring to younger dancers. So yeah, we offer a lot of different kinds of mentoring. and we can tailor them to the needs of our community.
I think that's something that I've been really impressed with E33, that it really is, it's both professional dance at the highest level, but also a really genuine commitment to working sort of in and with community, which is brilliant. Just, I will try and ask you something just before we finish, but I just wanted to say, because we're almost out of time, that obviously one of the things at the moment is that artists are not being able to earn a living through their art. So one of the things that Wandsworth Arts Fringe is doing is, as all these screenings and performances are being offered free, but if you would like to support all the artists, there is a button, and it says donate to support the artists. So if you're in a position to do that, do please think about supporting the artists. If you have any problem doing that, just email or get in touch with WAF, and they'll let you know how to do that. But there is a button that you should just be able to press to say donate. So I think we've definitely had a fantastic watching that film. That's I think many of us would happily sit and pay for it to sit and watch that in a cinema. So just before we run out of time, I wonder, Rachel, we've said it's very much your story. This is something that you poured a lot of your life into making this film. And I just want you to say something about how cathartic was it to be able to sort of express your life and your struggles and your coming through that through dance, and then see that come to the creation of this beautiful film.
Yeah, definitely. I think art can be so healing, whether you watch art, whether you're watching this film, or whether you're painting at home or dancing. I think art has that beautiful way of, like bringing beauty from brokenness. So yeah, it was definitely very healing for me. And every time I watch the film, something different speaks to me. I spot something different that I think I need to see. So I hope you have the same experience whilst watching it.
And for you, Dan, obviously it wasn't telling your story, but I would suspect that being in something like that expresses such a lot of struggle, you must have to relate to things in your own life. So did you find that there was something actually sort of healing in making that film?
I think it makes you look closer, and it makes you do a bit of soul searching. And so, yeah, I think having to portray someone who loves perfectly, someone who is perfectly patient, someone who is all-knowing but not arrogant about it, and knows a person so well they know what they would do or say, but doesn't encroach on their right to say or do it, and gives them the time to respond. I think that spoke to me quite deeply. And so my favorite part of the production was the first dance, where the girl and God are dancing, but not always lining up, but trying to line up. But he's always giving her space, but always trying to be there for her when she needs it. So that was it. Yeah.
Well, I think we're out of time.
And thank you everyone.
So much, everybody.
Thank you everyone for watching this. Sorry, Betsy. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching this, and also thank you to everyone who helped, who was part of the film in any capacity, our actors, our dancers, our partners. There's so many people involved. So just a big shout out to you all, the musicians, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you, Betsy and Dan, for joining me this evening.
Thank you. And do, if you have tuned in sort of late, I gather the film is going to be up for some time. So if you've been listening, but you haven't actually yet had a chance to watch the film, or you think, having spoken to and heard from Rachel and Dan, you want to watch it again, it will be up on the Wandsworth Arts Fringe website for, I think, until the end of lockdown, but certainly over the next week. So thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Dan, both for this beautiful film and for joining us tonight. And thank you, Wandsworth Arts Fringe, for hosting us. And have a great evening.